welcome to Marshmallow Reads. I'm Marcy. I'm in my bed, which most likely means I'm about to do another vlog. So this time around, it is for Asianreadathon. So if you don't know, the month of May has been designated as Asianreadathon month. I've chosen to join in the challenge to read a few more books written by Asian authors. This challenge includes 5 challenges, mini challenges, and you can choose to do all 5 of them with a book for each of them, or you can combine a few of them to make it a little bit easier. I've chosen to do that part. If you want to know more about Asianreadathon and just about the rules and some recommendation lists, I will link that information in the description. Okay, so let me tell you about the challenges and the books I have selected for them. First, for read any book written by an Asian author and read any book written by an Asian author in my favorite genre, which for years now has been sci-fi, I have chosen Stratagem by Yoon Lee. This is the second book in the 9 Fox Gambit series. For the challenges, read any book featuring an Asian protagonist and read any book written by an Asian author that is not US centric. I have chosen Haunting Bombay by Shilpa Agarwal. And then lastly, for the 5th challenge, it's kind of out of order, read any non-fiction book by an Asian author. I have chosen Know My Name by Chanel Miller. Like I said, you can combine the challenges in multiple challenges in one book. That's totally fine. But the thing is, for each additional book that you're reading, it should be written by an author from a different ethnicity. You know, to promote more diverse reading. Asians are not a monolith. As part of Asianreadathon, and also just as a thing I've been wanting to do, I have also chosen 2 charities to donate to. The first one I've chosen is Give India, which provides oxygen for patients of COVID-19 in India. And the second one is Medical Aid for Palestinians. So for the past week or so, we've been hearing about the escalated situation over in Palestine, and it frustrates me to no end that currently and for decades, the media has kind of tricked us into thinking that this is a complicated issue, but it's not. It really isn't. If you just looking at the casualties, the civilian, for the most part, casualties, and many children, it's heavily on the Palestinian side. There is a huge power imbalance here, and I'm glad, at least on Twitter and other social spaces that I'm involved in, I'm seeing a lot of people speak out against the Israeli government and in support for the Palestinian people. And in so many ways, I feel helpless, but hopefully providing some funds for this aid helps even a tiny bit. If you feel so inclined and if you have the means, I would consider checking out different Asian specific organizations and charities to maybe donate to. All right, on to the books. So first, let me tell you about Stratagem. Like I said, this is the 2nd book in the series, and it is a sci-fi series. And it's no, I didn't want to talk to you. This is a sci-fi series that's heavy on the war and military aspects of space travel and fighting. The technology that we use is vastly different. The entire civilization is focused around the high calendar, and everyone in the civilization must adhere to this high calendar with its rules and regulations in order for the technology that is based off of it to function. So this is calendrical technologies and also weaponry. There's a lot of fighting, like I said, and it's mostly fighting against aliens and also other humans who they have labeled as heretics. These heretics are people who do not adhere to the high calendar, or they have a different calendar that they adhere to, and they clash because of it. The Kell is a group of people, I guess the military part, the boots on the ground people, and they rely on formation instinct, works on the high calendar to produce different effects. Some can be shields, others can be like kinetic lances, like weapons, and it all comes back to the high calendar. And like, you know, if you zoom in on how that works, it's math. It basically is like math magic, which is super neat and not a thing that I had seen in books before. Like, not sci-fi, not fantasy. It really seems to be like a blend of the two, but like aesthetically, it's mostly sci-fi. And without spoiling too much of the first book, the second book opens up with this general, Shuos Jidao. He is like 400 years old, and he should have been dead a long time ago because he was executed, but also kept alive by the government because he's really good at being a general. Like, he's never lost a battle in his life or death. So they keep him around for like strategical reasons. And he has been brought in to fight, I forget the name, some aliens. I think he took a tiny little spacecraft to this Kell fleet, but using the Kell's formation instinct against them, he's made himself like the head general, and like everyone has to listen to him, and he is like imposing his weird strategy plans on these people, and they're forced to listen to him. I think this was covered in the first book, but I have a feeling that this second book is going to focus more on heresy as a thing, like what is heresy and why it's so bad, or maybe why it's not so bad. So I'm interested in reading more about this. Okay, and then one more thing before I pause this book. We were introduced to, I believe, a lieutenant character in this like Kell command that Jidao took over, and he's trans, which is always exciting to see, you know, representation. And knowing that his character is being written from the experience of a trans author is like really interesting to read. So I'm excited to see more about this guy. He seems terrified about the situation and just trying to survive and help other people. Okay, on to Know My Name. I am listening to the audiobook and I'm in like the last 45 minutes of it. Wow, I wish I had both the audiobook and a physical copy of this because I want to highlight basically every line in this book. So in case you don't know, Chanel Miller, who is the author of this book and is also the narrator of the audiobook, she is a survivor of sexual assault. If you remember the Brock Turner case, she is that Emily Doe, and she takes you through the entire experience of this, starting from the night when her sister and her sister's friends were getting ready to go out to a silly frat party, to waking up in the hospital the next morning, all the examinations, talking to the detectives, then finding a lawyer and dealing with the trial process, which is awful. Like, obviously awful for so many different reasons, and every single part of this process is heartbreaking. And you see her trying to work through it and seeing the mental and physical toll that this whole thing has on her is intense. So because of the subject matter, it's clearly not going to be for everyone. She doesn't really hold back. So, you know, take that into consideration if you want to pick this up. But I think, you know, if you can, I highly suggest reading this book. It's possible that you may have already read some of her work. So back in, I think it was like 2016, right after the trial ended, she published her, I think it's called personal victim statement, something like that. basically like a 12-page essay that she wrote as her personal statement to read to the judge, but really she was addressing Brock and just going through, you know, somewhat briefly explaining how this process fucked her up and how he should definitely feel bad about it, understand that what he did was absolutely awful and wrong, and trying to lie about it like he did is also awful and wrong. And, you know, knowing how the sentencing turned out was frustrating. But like I said, I wanted to highlight basically every line in this book. I just have quotes on quotes on quotes. So let me give you some of the highlights. Wishing that you could just go back to the way things were before the assault. Like, not having as many cares in the world, just being able to live your life without thinking about, okay, where am I going to be tonight? Are there going to be any witnesses? Am I going to be walking by myself late at night? Can I drink anymore? Is it always going to be used against me in, you know, future incidences? Like, this affects every single part of her life, and not even just hers. It's her boyfriend's life, it's her sister's and family's life, it's everyone around her is massively impacted by this case. Having to be a good victim so that you look good in front of the jury, and that the defense attorney can't find these awful ways to insinuate that you were asking for it, or that it's somehow your fault that this asshole you. The fact that so many of the questions were focused on, did she have a boyfriend? Were they sexually involved? How many boyfriends has she had before? Like, so many invasive questions. Like, none of those things matter. It does not matter. She did nothing wrong. Nothing that she did asked for it, you know? Like, it's awful. Oh my God. Getting billed $1,000 by the hospital for getting, basically. No, send it to the rest, or just don't have it at all. Like, this doesn't need to happen. Just 1,000 cuts, just in every step of the way. How do you go about regaining your identity? Like, how do you go from, you know, being some person's victim back to yourself again? What does that process look like? How long does it take? Can it even happen? I was listening to the part this morning on my way to work where she was talking about her experience with the response to her BuzzFeed post, the personal statement. Just millions of views, and, you know, a similarly large amount of really positive comments. Like 95 or whatever, the comments were on her side and like personally connected to her through a shared experience or just through like sympathy. It was massive, and it made me tear up, and like, I can only imagine. And also, at one point, you know, reflecting on her experience as a witness in her trial, thinking about all of the poor people, mostly Black men, who were killed by cops, who don't get to testify against their murders. And how fucked that is. Oh yeah, this book is a lot, but it's very worth it. Like, and there's something about hearing Chanel read her own words and like hearing it from herself is pretty intense. I'm really glad I listened to this one. Okay, I'll check in when I finish it. There's not too much left. She's currently reading her like 12-page personal impact statement, and yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to be on the lookout for this in physical form, because I'm gonna need to reread this at some point. Like, it's just, there's just so much. Okay, I'm gonna pause there. I'll be back with an update. I did not intend to film. It's like 10 o'clock at night. I'm getting ready for bed. So I just finished chapter 11, I guess. I just finished chapter 11 of Raven's Stratagem. I meant to do an update to like tell you about the political intrigue and how all these different like groups are, you know, they have their own like thing going on, like the Kel that I talked about, the military people, the Shuos who are like the spies, and they all like fit into this society. And, you know, there's assassination attempts, and this guy, Mikodez, he's got a thing going on with Jidao. I don't think they're friends, but I don't think they're necessarily enemies. I don't know. But we're seeing a bit of his life, and he has a younger brother who is one of his, I guess, handful of body doubles, and one of his body doubles is currently recovering in the hospital from an assassination attempt. And, you know, everything is fine and normal. The little brother is like trying to take care of him because Mikodez hasn't like slept in a few days. Like, okay, just go home, go to my apartment and take a nap. We'll catch up later. And he does that. And Istradez, I think is his name, the brother, his longtime lover is there and like cuddles up with Mikodez on the couch, and they're just like napping together, which I guess is fine because when Mikodez wakes up, his brother's there and they're chatting, and then like I said, they're brothers, but then they kiss. And the chick joins in, and they're like, oh, I think they do more than kiss. I didn't like it. I did not expect it. I didn't like it. I don't know how this is gonna go. Like, why? Okay, bye. Hey, reading update. I just took a little break, sat outside a little bit. You could probably hear the birds, maybe hear the cars on Main Street. But yeah, I didn't read too much more last night after the whole like brother incest thing. That kind of threw me off. But this morning I picked back up, and it was back with Jidao and Brezin, actually. So first, Brezin, he was kicked off of the swarm by Jidao, and he got like rescued, but the Hexarchate thinks he's a traitor and that he's actually like working with Jidao, so they have to send in this Rahal, this other like social class interrogator, to kind of like put a hex on him, to like kind of read through his thoughts, see what he's like, and to see if he can be trusted. And apparently he passed, and now they believe him, and they're going to try to use him to like send him back and try to take over the swarm through formation instinct. And in order to do that, they're like promoting him like way like to the like high general level, and he does not want this at all, but he's like, okay, I either do this or am kicked out of the Kel. So he's agreed to do that. And then we're back on the swarm with Jidao and Kuryev. I don't know if that's how you pronounce her name, but they just got informed that if they don't relinquish control of the swarm, then the Hexarchate is going to just straight up murder 60,000 of their civilians. It's like this small ethnic group that Cheris belongs to. Kel Cheris is the body that Jidao is currently residing in, and they were trying to see if she was like still in there and like would fight back, but he doesn't care. Not that he doesn't care, he just like knows that they're, you know, all the way across the galaxy, or the Hexarchate, and there's no way that he can get people over there to help them out. So he's just kind of figuring out like, well, hopefully they don't actually kill them because we can't do anything. So it's interesting that he, you know, he's not evil. He's just like practical, I guess. And then Kiriev is actually trying to help him a little bit. Like, she understands that he's not evil and that the Hexarchate isn't necessarily always in the right, you know? So she's actually willing to put her life on the line to help him. So stuff's interesting. There's some flowers that I've watered almost every day and they haven't died, so doing something. Hey, I'm back with a bit more makeup, and I've read about 5% more of Raven's Stratagem, and I'm really enjoying it. So I wasn't entirely sure how much of this book was going to be focused on Jadao, and I'm actually pretty happy that we're getting some more perspectives as well. So the part that I've read is on new High General Brezin. He and his like Andin, I think they're Andin. They're like kind of like the Shuos, but like with a better reputation in society. And but these two factions, the Kel and the Andin, haven't had the best of histories. But these two individual people have been selected to go assassinate Jadao, and Brezin and Taya, oh boy, I don't remember her name. They're getting to know each other and like talking on this fancy ship. And one thing I forgot to mention are the servitors, which are these like, I think robotic, animal-ish servants basically. And it's really neat, like having a somewhat sentient robotic being in a sci-fi story that's not like human-like. And they sound very cute. And apparently the Andin servitors can sometimes talk, which threw off Brezin, which was cute. I was gonna say something else. I don't remember what else I was gonna say. Hopefully I remember it for the next update. Bye. I remember what I was gonna say. I don't know if I just forgot or if this is a new element in this book, but apparently the different factions have different like faction abilities. So the one I've mentioned before is the Kel. They have their formation instinct that allows them to do cool shit. The Andin have a version of that for like social rank. Formation instinct is based on rank, and enthrallment, the Andin version, is based on social hierarchy. So that way you don't have like baby Andins triggering this power on like the older ones, more powerful ones, and just like stealing all their shit. Apparently Tsaya is a disgraced Andin, which puts her at the very bottom of the social hierarchy. And because Jadao is like also on the very bottom of all of the social hierarchy, she is still able to enthrall him, but she cannot enthrall Brezin, which he's been like terrified of this whole time. So I don't know, these like little like powers, it's kind of fantasy light, you know, just like bits of it in sci-fi. I'm really enjoying that. And now for a snack break. So I have been really into making my own boba tea and drinks at home lately, because I found this like, I guess, dehydrated or dried out boba balls that you can buy, bring home, and then like, you know, for however many you want, you can just throw them in a pot of boiling water for like, you know, however long it takes for them to start floating to the top. Then you set a 5-minute timer, and after that, take them out, strain them off the water, and then put them in a bowl with some brown sugar to like sweeten up. And then you can add those to basically whatever drink you want. In this edition of my boba tea time, I decided to do a oat milk and watermelon juice drink that I saw like forever ago on a YouTube video. And I measured nothing, and I just like threw some of the boba balls in at the bottom along with some ice cubes, and then like half volume, like 1 part oat milk, just like, I tend to prefer like the creamier style, but like whatever. You pick yours. Half oat milk and then half watermelon juice, just a random one I found at Sprouts, and mix it all up, and it was delicious. So if you find dried boba, go for it. Give it a try. It's super easy, and I didn't have to drive to a boba place. Fun! I'm back. Couple things. I realized I never actually gave a final update to Know My Name. This was a couple days ago. Anyway, the final chapter, the audiobook and the book, is Chanel reading her personal victim statement. I thought I was going to be okay since, you know, her entire book is kind of a fleshed out version of the statement. No! It was really hard to get through. It was just so emotional, and since you know it's Chanel reading it herself, there were certain times where like there'd be like a noticeable gap, and I thought like my audiobook had paused, but no, it was Chanel like almost choking up and needing to like take an extra breath, and that got me. Like as soon as I realized that's what was happening, I started tearing up and started crying a little bit because it was just so intense and impactful. Like, yeah, it was a pretty big and good, I guess, ending to the book. I would highly recommend it. Like, if you are okay reading something like that about this topic, definitely give it a shot. Okay, and for Raven's Stratagem, I am 70% of the way done. I am getting really into it. A couple new things that we learned. So Brezin and Saya, they are on this like tiny ship on their way to Jadao's fleet to kill him. And since they have time, they've started having sex just like for fun, which is, you know, whatevs, do your thing. And we also learn that Saya is really mad at her mom for some reason, and her mom is like a like really powerful, she's like really up there in society though, and her mother is like trying to get Saya's love back by some dumb ways, like basically trying to bribe her, and I don't think that's working. So there's this like special math formula that I'm assuming is very complex and fancy that basically allows you to program yourself to become immortal. And the first time they tried it, the poor dude went insane and tried to kill himself. But since he was like just basically a mind in a machine, he was not successful and is just currently losing his absolute mind. Jadao, I don't know if he was like the second or third iteration of this prototype, but one of the basically the person who like made the Black Cradle for him, this like eternal mind prison, Kujin, I think he's a Rahal or a Nirai, I don't remember, he's one of the two, very good at math, and he was the one in charge, or he might even discovered this formula. Anyway, he was the one who programmed Jadao to be basically a puppet commander, strategist, technician, or tactician for the Kel, and kind of drove him insane as well. But Kujin, we are seeing in like the current timeline as well. Yeah, I don't know how to feel about him. Like, he seems very selfish. Like, whatever he's doing, whoever he's aligning with, it's for selfish purposes. Like, he's already immortal, but in order to like make that immortality bearable, he's gaining as much like social power and money as possible. I think that's it for now. I don't know if you can really register this on the camera, but the sky is just completely yellow. It's like 8:30 at night. What? Hey, final update time. I just finished Raven Stratagem and I'm pretty happy with it. I really enjoyed this story. I wasn't quite sure where it was going to end up with like Jadao versus Brezin versus like the Hexarchate and stuff. And I think it was pretty well put together. And I am looking forward to reading the third one. I'm also happy that the servitors, who are like I said, animal-like little machine guys, how they played a pretty big role in this book. They're adorable and I'm happy that we're getting to see more of them. I think in the end, the Shoes Hexarch, Mikudes, he's an interesting character. And like, it was clear that his relationship with his brother was not a normal thing in society. Like, they were just fucking weirdos. So that's good. I am really enjoying the themes that we're seeing in this series, and yeah, I'll leave it at that. I think, you know, you've gotten a pretty good idea of what this book is about. So if you haven't read the first one, I think you should go read it. Unfortunately, I just did not have time to really get a good chunk of the way into Haunting Bombay. I did get to start it, which I'm happy about. I'm only about like 20 or 30 pages in, so it's really only like the very beginning of the book, but I'm liking it so far. I believe it takes place in like the 1960s in Bombay, India, and it's this family who are living in this old bungalow that they're calling, but it sounds like a pretty nice house, and it used to be owned by this like Englishman, but like he left and, you know, just had to like leave all his stuff there for some reason. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's going to be emotional and spooky, and I am loving all of this like vivid imagery of India and like even like the food. It definitely made me hungry. But that's all I can really say about that. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on Haunting Bombay, look for my, I guess, May wrap up. I got a few more days in May. I think I can finish it off. Maybe. We'll see. Okay, I know this was a long one, so I'm just going to wrap it up here. I hope you enjoyed this longish reading vlog of mine. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up. And if you really liked this video, then consider subscribing to my channel. I try to do videos on Thursdays. This one is not going up on a Thursday. It's fine, it's fine. That's it for now. I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!